good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Thank you so much for joining us. Those of you who were here yesterday, and I see a lot of people who look like they were here with us yesterday. So welcome back to what Flaminia called was going to be our second more exciting day. So if you enjoyed yesterday, you're going to hold Flaminia accountable that today is going to be much more exciting. It will, in fact, dig into some of the details of some of the activities that we have been doing, but also coming up. This is a look into next year and, well, this coming year. And really, we want you to think about not only kind of what people are saying and what they're doing, but obviously it's an opportunity for all of us to be involved. This has been, I think, for those of you who I won't try to repeat the highlights of yesterday, but yesterday obviously was quite an amazing day to see how far we've come in this is the 8th members meeting, which for me is just astonishing. I don't know what you folks think, but I mean, 8 years seems to have gone back in pretty much of a blink of an eye from our perspective. But when you look at where we've come from and look at the fact that we really did start as just a side group of urologists. And for that first year or so, we really operated as more of a project. And now, you know, what you'll see not only is the amazing growth of RDI, the inclusion of so many more stakeholders, certainly the number of members that have joined and the number of members that are active, but also what the status of rare diseases, not just RDI. RDI is fine, but RDI is just RDI, right? But the status of rare diseases on the international agenda. I think that is what is so impressive. And I think we've seen so many times, you know, where rare diseases has come up in conversations, in settings, in scientific settings, in clinical settings, in new avenues in terms of care and treatment. We've seen rare diseases come into it. We've seen it at the UN, we've seen it at the WHO, but we've also seen it in areas that are not just health related. So I think the impact that rare diseases have is significant. And when you see and you participate today, you'll see where and how we've kind of come up to that point in terms of the ways in which I will say really a lot of credit to everybody at RDI for the strategic direction that we took, for the very deliberate way in which RDI has been able to grow. I mean, hasn't been, you know, just a one plan. And I can't say that for any of us that we had the vision at the very beginning where we would be 8 years from now, but I think we did have the global sense of where we'd be from now. And I think that's important. I also think it's important that, you know, many of the people that we started with are still with us, but along the way, we've also picked up and included and have actively engaged so many more that have actually helped to move the whole agenda. I would say, really, I had no idea that we could be as far as we have come in terms of our presence, in terms of our achievements. It's also been a serendipity, as you know. Science has moved, you know, a lot. Treatments have increased tremendously, and you'll hear a bit more in today's agenda about some of the issues that have been able to be addressed because of it, but also you will hear some of the challenges that has engendered. And I think that's kind of the theme as we're talking about it going forward as well, right? As we have created new opportunities, as we have realized some of our ambitions, as we have actually gained some of the stature that we need in order to make changes, then it's on us to actually make that happen and to make it meaningful. And it means then that we're also needing to live up to what has been our mantra, maybe not articulated exactly, but picked up as we went along the way. And certainly the mantra that the United Nations has really used for rare diseases, and that is leave no one behind. I mean, as much as I think we all are a collegial community, and certainly I feel like I have, you know, more friends in RDI than I probably do in my real life. So, you know, you folks are probably more real to me than the people that I see on a regular basis, which is, it's either a great thing or it's a sad thing. I'm not real sure which one it is, but I will also say it's been lovely in the last while, starting maybe just back in Dubai, seeing all of you in real life again. So that's really exciting. And some of you we've never met before. So that's exciting. And we're hoping then as we move into this year, we'll continue to do what we've been able to do virtually. We'll continue to make the progress that we've made. Sometimes, as some people said, because we've had the opportunity to do it virtually, not just necessarily in spite of it, but also taking full advantage of coming back together. So I'm very excited. I don't want to take up any more time in just talking, but I really want to, again, acknowledge what amazing group of members that we have, the amazing amount of stretch that we've had with our staff and our new staff, and certainly the huge progress and the opportunities that we have created for ourselves, and it really has been created for ourselves, on the global stage, on national stages. And some of that you heard yesterday, you'll hear even more of it today. So just quickly looking at the agenda, you want to put the agenda up? Thanks so much, Hlawulani. What you'll see is that we're going to move directly into strategic engagement of the RDI members. This is something that I think from the very beginning when we did our first surveys, it's what you as the members told us. What do we want? We want to be more engaged. We want to have the opportunities to take a bigger role, not just globally, but nationally, and certainly on our local community. And so we're going to have some presentations around what it is that we're planning to do and how all of you can absolutely take a role, whether you're able to provide some leadership and mentorship, but also help to contribute in terms of content, contribute in terms of the process. So Flaminia, as all of you know, who's our executive director, Flaminia Macchia, Lisa Sarfaty, who is the vice president of community engagement at NORD, and has been a long-term from the very beginning, of course, a member of RDI and whom we miss terribly on council. I always, when we go into the council meetings, I really look around for Lisa, because Lisa was always our voice of reason, right? We're all there kind of having opinions and we're moving forward, and Lisa's always the one that brings us back to the ground. So miss that terribly, Lisa, and appreciate your really stepping up to take the roles in terms of the strategic engagement. And of course, all of you will know Hlawulani, who has been the constant outreach to constant development and has been instrumental in this. We'll introduce each panel as they'll come up, but just to give you a preview, we'll have a break, a 10-minute break. What we'd like to do is right before that break, we'd like to take a group photo. So what we'd like to have you do is encourage you to do is before we take the break, we'll all come back on, we'll all turn on our cameras, and Rachel, I think, is going to take a couple group shots for everybody that's here. So make sure that you stay on for a few minutes while we take that group picture. If you need to duck out to kind of make yourself a little bit more presentable during the time of the presentation, certainly feel free to do so. After the break, we come back to two other panels, then the advocacy priorities. And again, we'll have some presentations led by Flaminia, but also will be supported by Dolores. I'm not even going to try her last name again. Sometimes I get it right and sometimes I don't. So, but Dolores, who's joined us as a new advocacy lead, and we're just so very delighted to have her here and with her expertise. And then from the members of the advocacy committee who will be joining us, Roselyn and Christine from Kenya, Agnes, Hector from the International Prader-Willi organization. And certainly we're going to have then the opportunity also to hear from sorry, my screen gets a little small here. Anna from the Fabry International Network, and Salome from the World Federation of Hemophilia. So some of our international members who in and of themselves have done some amazing jobs in terms of advocacy across the globe. We'll have a break and then we'll come back and talk about global access. You had a little bit of a preview of that yesterday and talking about some of the issues, the committees that we've put together. And really, once again, what we want to make sure that we're doing is that as we're moving forward in terms of more developments, more achievements, research, diagnostics, and treatments, that we're able to make sure that there are going to be available to everybody. And we keep that very, very strongly in focus. That again, from the point of view of rare diseases, we are indeed a global community. And that means everybody from the ground up. So you'll see, hopefully, the opportunities again for you to be able to participate in that. And then we'll be able to close. So without much further ado, unless there's an amazing, thanks everybody for putting your information into the chat. If you still want to do that, that would be great, just to introduce yourselves, and we'll kind of flip through it. Also, as the presentations are taking place, feel free to enter your questions or your comments into the chat. We'll monitor them and maybe have a time to introduce them into the panel discussion as well. The panel have presentations, but I'm sure they would be very happy to be able to integrate comments that you've got going on. So feel free to really take an active part in the panel presentations. So we have asked that you maybe, except for the panel that is speaking, if everybody could turn off their cameras while the panel presentation is taking place, just to save a bit of bandwidth, we think. And then, but make sure we will give a shout out, come back on before the break so that we can do a group photo. So, okay, I'm going to turn it over to you, Flaminia, to take us through the first panel on strategic engagement.
Thank you, Durhane. I'm really very happy to briefly introduce this session on the strategic engagement program, as we are particularly proud of this piece of work. Just to note that from the Secretariat, previous one, please. From the Secretariat, key staff members involved have been Hlawulani Mkhabela, who is RDI Strategic Engagement Manager, with Veronica Lopez and the support of Nida Hassan. Also, Lisa Sarfaty has been our lead from the membership on this program. Lisa is NORD Vice President of Community Engagement and also a former RDI Council member. And actually, Lisa started supporting this program when she was still a member of the RDI Council. Next, please. So I would like to give a brief overview of the process which supported the development of this program through a survey with members and also several consultations within the RDI Council. So back in 2020, members were invited to complete a comprehensive survey on their international advocacy priorities and capacity building needs. Members, amongst their key priorities, members identified advocacy, international collaborations and access, and also this organizational development and sustainability that I will get back to at the end of the presentation. So the results of this survey were then used throughout 2020 throughout 2021, so last year, for the development of a medium-term capacity building strategy and set of activities for the period 22-25. The draft program was presented to the council, and then with the feedback from the council, we adjusted the original proposal so to fit closer to RDI priorities. Next, please. We also changed the name of the program from Capacity Building Program to Strategic Engagement Program to reflect exactly what Durhane was underlining. So to reflect the fact that capacities will be strategically supported to empower the community and raise the engagement of members in RDI's activities. So the overarching goal of the program is to provide tools and resources for members and patient advocates to support common strategic priorities. And so, as you see, specifically, the program aims to enable the broader community to shape global collaborations and to support patient organizations in terms of advocacy. So support patient organizations to drive local, national, and regional advocacy. And then also to support community leaders. So it's really these three levels of impact as well. It's members of RDI, but also individual advocate leaders and the rare disease community at large. Another thing I wanted to share with you before giving the floor to Lisa is that given the focus on this community engagement and networking and building connections, the former, what was called before conferences and fellowship program, has been integrated under this strategic engagement program. Also, other advocacy and community engagement activities, such as, for instance, the activities linked to the Rare Disease Day campaign, will also be included in this program, so to create a truly comprehensive strategic engagement program. And now I hand over to Lisa, who has supported the development of the program from the beginning and will provide an overview. Thank you. Please, Lisa.
Thank you, Flaminia. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, probably good evening to someone. As Flaminia shared, we started working on this program several years ago when I was on the council, but then last year, I'd say, we really got together to try to put a plan in place and carry it forward. And as shared, our goal really is to strengthen the RDI community and the members that are within it so that together we can be stronger in our messaging, in our advocacy, in our work, and our collaborations with others who are in support of our mission and our goals. And so part of our plan was to look at what exists. So a lot of resources on the topics that we have on the screen are covered. Well, I'll take a step back. RDI is growing and it's wonderful, but still has limited capacities, and we wanted to maximize those limited capacities to the best of our ability. And so part of that was looking at what already exists in the space that we can pull from to support our members without reinventing the wheel. So looking at white papers, educational videos, reports, toolkits, plans, frameworks, everything that's been created to date that goes in line with these three areas of advocating for people living with rare diseases and their families, participating in global collaborations, and facilitating access and equity. Now, in some of these areas, RDI has already created the material, the toolkits, the reports, the documents. So what I want to talk to you about today is what these three areas will encompass and how we hope that you will be engaged with us in helping to build out the strategic engagement program, because it really does require engagement from both parties, from RDI and its membership, in order to drive its success forward. So as Flaminia said in the beginning, we had a very ambitious plan, admittedly too big, too broad, and we had to scale it down. We had to scale it back. And as she said, these were the three areas that really fit in line today with where RDI is and what we're focusing on and the work that we're trying to do. So it seemed like an easy and obvious place to start to build out this strategic engagement program. So in the first track, advocating for people living with rare diseases and their families, we're going to be compiling resources around specific advocacy campaigns that RDI is putting forward, calls to action. This includes informational resources and toolkits, but also looking at what exists to support our members in building national rare disease frameworks and plans, and toolkits on how to develop a plan in your country or region. So one of the other things that I don't think, Hlawulani, we put in the opening slides was some of the feedback that we received from the membership survey was interest in mentorship and twinning programs and being connected to others who are working on similar things or have already accomplished some of the goals and initiatives that your organizations have. So as part of this track one, I would envision that as we're looking at what resources exist on developing these national plans and frameworks, as an example, that we would try to partner organizations together who have already done this, who have built national plans and frameworks with other organizations who are looking to do the same. So not only you have the resources and the toolkits, but you have the ability to connect with someone else who can also talk to you about what the process was like, lessons that they learned, and how to be successful moving forward. In the second track, the participating in global collaborations, we're going to be focusing on the existing and emerging global collaborations where RDI and its members are active or can have a seat at the table to help drive progress. So in doing so, we can share opportunities such as calls of interest to participate in these global collaborations when there are openings and availabilities, but also sharing back the information, the resources that are produced as a result of those collaborative projects. And so, Hlawulani, I imagine that this includes things like EARDIC and some of the working groups that we're doing there, and bringing those resources and those learnings back to our members so that you have a centralized place to find the information that's of benefit to you with regards to global collaborations, such as that is just one example. And our third track, the access and equity, we know this is a very big topic in rare diseases, and especially for this global community. We're going to be compiling resources and information on regional rare disease access frameworks, orphan drug legislation and policies, and global challenges around accessing timely diagnosis, and hopefully being able to pull together resources around what is being done to look at access, global learnings, resources, information from others, other regions, other countries. And later on, we envision that this track is going to include toolkits on the operational descriptions of rare diseases that Mary is working on, as well as the WHO Essential List of Medicines and Diagnostics. So I think the message that I want to leave for everyone with these three tracks is this is a starting point, but Hlawulani, Flaminia, Ida, everyone at RDI has done a lot of work to try to determine how to create a program that is twofold. One, resources and information, making sure that you have access to the things that you need or want in an easy place, that you don't have to go trying to look for it, and we can bring it to you as best as possible. And at the same time, identifying the gaps. So by pulling these resources together, it's going to give us, the team, an opportunity to see what's missing, what resources, what information, what toolkits don't exist, where perhaps RDI and its members in collaboration could develop those resources to support those topics in these three tracks. And taking that a step further, helping to facilitate dialogue in these three areas with our membership, both with RDI and amongst each other, again, to share those lessons learned, talk about collaboration, and really help one another move forward. And then ultimately, the goal is to ensure that every member, as a part of RDI, feels confident and capable in participating in the advocacy campaigns, in the research work, and the access work that RDI is doing, so that we have a common foundation of knowledge, of training, of information that's going to allow us all to really work stronger together going forward. So Hlawulani, did I miss anything?
Oh no, that was perfect. I couldn't have done better. So thank you, Lisa. Thanks, Lisa and Flaminia, for explaining so well our aims with this program. I'm going to break something to you, though. The reason we asked to be first is that I'm going to be asking you to work a little bit hard in this coming session. It's not so much a launch or a consultation. It's really me asking you to help us build this platform together and build the elements of this program together. I'm going to quickly describe the various elements of the program, and you will start to see where our membership fits in and how it's all coming together. So let's take a look at the different parts, at the different elements of the program. A minute. Right. Cool. So we'll take a look at the digital elements of the platform, and then we'll really take a tour of the platform so you can see how the bits and pieces are all actually coming together. At any minute, please feel free to raise your hand. Let me know if I've missed something or if I've spoken too fast. I speak very, very fast, so feel free to let me know. Write anything in the chat. Laura is looking at the chat, so if you have any questions, if something comes up, just feel free to put it into the chat immediately. Can I just confirm that you can all still see the slide presentation? Lisa, maybe you can raise your hand because I can see you best. Thank you. Cool. So at the heart of this digital platform are the resources and the resource bank. The idea is to create a collated list of resources that are developed by our members and other relevant stakeholders. You've all developed really wonderful capacity building resources. We don't want to, neither can we try to reinvent that wheel. What RDI is trying to do is serve as a common space to share and access that knowledge that we're all building together. The resources that you will see in the program's digital platform, they're not a comprehensive list. It's not everything that you could have on that subject or even everything that you need to know on that subject. However, what we're trying to bring is a list of some of the most relevant sources for patient advocates. We all know, and I feel this very strongly, is that we all have a lot of work to do. Our workload is quite high. So you need that information at your fingertips without having to go hunting for it sometimes. I would like to know, for example, how a rare disease is defined in South Africa without having to search through the web to find it. And the idea of the digital platform and those resource banks is that you should be able to reach that basic information quite quickly. All the sources in the different resource banks are credited directly to their organizations with links to those organizations. This is why we're calling this element of the digital platform really community generated knowledge. It's basically your knowledge. We're not taking ownership of it. We're just presenting it back to the community. The next element is what we're calling maybe RDI created and developed resources and tools that you will also see on the platform. These are toolkits that are really developed around certain missions, calls to actions and advocacy, and programmatic areas. Lisa mentioned the development as more of a future project around a toolkit around access linked to Mary's work on global access. Dolores, who will speak after me, will speak about the next steps for a UN resolution, and she will consult on what a toolkit and what kind of support you would need from RDI in order to move from calling for the adoption of a resolution to really calling for its implementation. So these toolkits are really generated for RDI to support your participation in the global advocacy movement and also in the global equity movement for rare diseases. The third element really centers around events. Flaminia had mentioned the evolution of the conference and fellowship program that had already existed in RDI. And we're just trying to make it a little bit more relevant to our members. So as far as the elements around events go, there are elements for you to share whatever rare disease day event you may have, to post that event and make sure the rest of the community knows about it and RDI is able to use its platforms to support you. We are also going to post open calls for fellowships. Fellowships in the fellowship program is something quite a staple of RDI already. We have already a few patient advocates going to the World Orphan Drug Congress, the REACT Congress, which had been online but will be in person next year, and maybe attending various regional events with RDI fellowship support. But you will be able to find those opportunities for fellowships and to build your network in one centralized hub. Cool. Another element which is maybe quite new to how we're viewing events is also to use this platform as a means to promote regional events that are co-organized with RDI's members. Yesterday, we spoke about the Africa Summit on Rare Diseases, and this was really a project that was quite close to our hearts because we were almost piloting this new approach, which is RDI co-organizing a regional event with one of its with a member that is really trying to federate rare disease voices at the regional level. This year, we've put together a small budget within this program to support small meetings by African rare disease groups, as well as APARDO for Asia Pacific and Alibert for Latin America. So that's kind of the events part of the program elements. The last part, which is kind of where I'm going to be reaching out to you more and more to be a part, is in facilitating member-led events and small group discussions. Lisa had mentioned the need to create cross conversations between our members who have maybe more experience in a certain area and can really share that knowledge, and others that may be interested in just hearing more about how others were able to tackle a certain advocacy issue or advance something in their national or regional policy landscape. We've already had one member-led workshop, which was organized by CORD, so the Canadian organization. and Durhane, who's on the call, on advanced therapies. And that was kind of a three-part workshop, but not all of them need to be three-part workshops. So coming up next will be Rare Voices Australia, which is hosting a 1 hour long conversation on how they developed a national plan and just sharing that experience on national plans that many of our members have expressed great interest in knowing a little bit about. So I've spoken at you for quite a while now, about 10 minutes. Laura, I don't know if there's anything in the questions section as I've been speaking.
For now, it's all good, but thank you everybody for introducing yourself. It's really impressive to see so many people connected from all around the world. I know we have like people from connected from Colombia, Canada, Thailand, Finland, Rwanda, Switzerland, so it's amazing. But feel free to ask any question in the chat if you have any.
Okay, great. Thanks, Laura. You've given me a great excuse to present my 2 tour guides on this journey that I hope to take you on, well, on this tour of the digital platform. The one is Laura. So Laura is the junior communications manager who's brightened up our team. Laura, you can just wave and say hi. And Veronica.
Hello.
So Laura will be looking at the chat, taking any of your questions in the chat as they come up. And Veronica will be busily filling in any of your suggestions, your feedback, your questions, any resources you think are missing on a Miro board. So she'll be taking busy notes as we go along. I think many of you know Veronica from the Collaborative Global Networks project. Veronica, you can say hi too.
Hey everybody, happy to see you all.
Great. So before we get stuck in, I have to let you know that this digital platform for the strategic engagement program is work in progress. This is a testing environment. I have tried really to develop this agenda to get not only you to consult on the program, but really to tell us what is missing, what can be better, what could we add before we launch this project. It's not really, your feedback is essential. So feel free to speak up, even if it's not nice, I can take it. I may not look like I can take it, but I can take it. So feel free to express yourself. I have to warn you that the current digital platform is not responsive on smaller screens. So if you're following the meeting on a phone or a laptop, it may be best to click on the digital platform more on an open screen or your desktop computer. Materials as well are currently only available in English, which is a weak point at the moment and something we're trying to rectify with you before the program is launched. So just be aware of that, and also be aware that we will integrate materials in different languages when the program is launched later in the year. Also feel free to suggest materials in your own language that you think are great and that should be included in the platform for us to include when the platform is launched. Great. Cool. So let me take you on a tour. I'm hesitating slightly because we've had some drama in the back end in the last few weeks. So great. Cool. Can everyone just let me know that they can see my screen? So also I know I'm not talking to myself.
Yes.
Yes, we're all here, Hlawulani,
Great,
and it
super.
works. We can see it.
Okay, cool. So this is a developing digital platform. This is the test ground for it. I will give you a link to it just now for you to play around with it, but I just wanted you to see it and for us to take a little tour of it. It has a menu bar that you can find at the top of every screen, as well as the bottom of every screen, just to make it easy for you to navigate it. We've called it so far Engage and Connect, because the idea is that you find resources and opportunities to connect with the global community, which is what RDI is, but also that you can use to act locally wherever you are. The first part of the program are those 3 tracks that Lisa introduced us to. So around advocacy, so resources around advocacy, collaborations, global collaborations, and access and equity. I will go into those in a little more detail later. We also have the events presented in one section of the website. You can find current calls for fellowship. So, you know, immediately if there is a call for fellowship that is open, the next call for fellowship that will be open will be the World Orphan Drug Congress in Europe, and you'd be able to click and apply to join that meeting with RDI support. You can also find out what the latest member-led discussion is, who is hosting it, and what it is about. Oops, sorry for that one. So you will know that there is Rare Voices Australia hosting a discussion on national frameworks on the 7th of September, and you'll be able to register and attend that on the platform. You'll also be able to see what else is happening, what other stakeholders and members are organizing as events, and be able to post your own event if you have an event that you would like on the RDI website or posted on social media as well. Great. As we tour this digital space, I want you to keep in mind maybe 3 main areas. The one is content. Ask yourself, is anything really missing that should be here? Would I find this information useful? What would I like to see on this platform before it is launched live? So content. Maybe also look at the layout. Does the layout make sense? Is it helping me understand where everything is? And functionality. Do I find things where I think I will find them? I will send you a link to the platform just now as well. Cool. Laura, still nothing in the chat?
There is some comments to ask if we could translate the document in certain languages, and also to know if it's possible to give some material. So please, if you have any material in other languages and you want to send them to us, so Veronica answered it and gave you our 2 addresses, but there is a common one. You can send it to everybody, but I will write it to you in the chat. But thank you for the proposal.
Okay, great. I mean, that is why we're having this. So please feel free to suggest any materials you believe should be on the platform. And the issue of language is not just a nice to have. For us, we see this as essential. So before the platform can be available in different languages, we will not be able to launch it, which is why this is still the test run of the program, and also why we're asking specifically for tools in your language to be included, along with the
Hlawulani.
translated tools. Yes,
Hlawulani,
Flaminia?
sorry, there is a very interesting proposal from Durhane who says,
Oh, yes.
will members suggest content to be curated? Would it be helpful to have a small advisory or steering group to help manage the content?
That's fantastic. That's kind of one of my wishes, is to have a small working group around the strategic engagement program. So if you're looking at this and you're like, this is definitely an area of work that my organization has experience in, and personally I would like to be part of this work stream, please do contact us either at my address that you all have or the comms address. But ideally, we would like to build a small working group that would be helping us collate the materials as well as helping with the translation process. This is particularly important because you can get materials translated professionally, but nothing beats having that local translator on the team with us. Okay, cool. Thank you so much, Flaminia. So
there is also a very nice comment, if I may.
Oh yeah, I like the nice ones.
Yes, from Helen Hernandez, who says that she loves this and have discussed the need for something like this 10 times over the last few months, and she feels a sense of relief that we're doing this. So just, I thought you need some encouragement.
Oh yeah, it's great to have a boost. Thank you so much. Okay, cool. So let's try to look at the little tracks. So advocacy, collaboration, access, and equity. Each track has been branded slightly differently, and each track has different materials in it. Let's go through it quickly because time actually moves quite fast. So advocacy. This is our little characters on advocacy. Each track has its own little scene of characters. We've tried to be as inclusive as possible, both in abilities and ethnicities in the characters chosen. When you go into the advocacy track, you'll be able to find global advocacy paths, the global advocacy paths. So materials really to support your global advocacy efforts and to enter into what RDI is doing, as well as national advocacy materials. I'm just going to go through that very quickly with you. So as far as global advocacy, you'll be able to find the current RDI developed toolkits, whether it's a toolkit on the resolution, on UHC for rare diseases, and also the Rare Disease Day toolkits that RDI helps develop with its members that are official partners of Rare Disease Day. You'll also be able to find under the path of international advocacy materials developed by international organizations on either UHC or the resolution and how civil society groups can really be involved in global advocacy. I think what I'm maybe most excited about is the national advocacy as well. In that, what we're trying to do is just maybe give a few little tools to boost and make easier some of your work on the ground. What we've developed, and I have to give great thanks to Veronica for this and collating the information, is a list of rare disease definitions in different countries that you can, in a clickable map, as well as rare disease policies. So for example, if you wanted not only to know how rare disease is defined in Canada, but see Canada's policy, you'd be able to click and easily see Canada's policy for rare diseases. If something is missing, please feel free to suggest it as we go. You will also find national advocacy toolkits, so toolkits developed by national groups on how to advocate for a national framework. I'm going to move a little bit quicker so that you also get a chance to play with it.
Sorry, Hlawulani, there is also really insightful comments in the chat from Rachel, Durhane, and Lisa mostly. So yeah, important points, but we really want to only propose open content so everyone could access to it. And the small group is a really good idea because, as Rachel and Lisa suggested, we could discuss for a database and maybe an index, so it will be easier to go through all the resources, because the aim is to, the more resources we have, the better it is. So thank you all for your comments.
Great, thank you. That's a good one. So far, everything we have is completely free and available to the community. You can also then, in the track on collaborations, see the collaborations and working groups that RDI is a part of. This is really important because if you want to be part of an RDI working group, you can find the information on what it is, and also feel free to reach out to our team on how you can be a part of it and be a part of the work. You can also see other interesting collaborations at the global level that RDI is a part of. Because RDI's participation in these working groups mean that there's opportunities for our members to also be a part of this work. So feel free to peruse that. We also have a list of interesting global collaborations that RDI may not directly be involved in, but that may be useful to you as we go along, as well as the regional alliances, just in case you wish to reach out to one of the regional alliances for your advocacy at the regional level, or to collaborate at the regional level. Let's quickly go through the last track, which is access and equity. Great. So access and equity kind of reflects how RDI is viewing its programmatic areas around access and equity. The contents are separated into networked care, so universal health coverage, health equity, and then access around access to diagnosis, access to treatment, so policies around orphan drug regulation and essential medicines lists. And you can find those and various infographics on UHC, on diagnosis, on policies, and the different essential medicines lists to help support your advocacy at the national and global level. Okay, so that's it for me. I'm going to just put the link to the website into the chat so you can find it. I want you to play around with it just for a few minutes. We'll have a little bit of silence that you can just go in, take a look, play around with it, put anything in the chat. Just put any of your reflections about the layout, any of the resources you think may be missing. And after that, we'll go on a little treasure hunt. Thank you, everyone.
So before we do that, I just want to say congratulations on pulling this off. It is so robust already. I mean, really looks amazing. I just want to say that first and foremost.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you. It's been fun. Great. So as you're doing that, Laura is looking at the chat. Veronica is actually filling in a Miro board. I'll show you what that looks like in a second with all your comments on there. So if you find something isn't working or you want to express something, Veronica is taking note.
Thank you, Veronica. As I also, sorry, an important point raised, and I think it's good to precise it. Where was it? So yeah, Helen, thank you, Ella, for your comment, is asking if the platform will be available to anyone or just to RDI members.
Ah, that's an excellent question. I was actually planning that question, and we can just have it now because I wanted your perspective on it. I'm not sure. I actually won't give my opinion on this one. I'm hoping to get some guidance from the group because we were wondering whether parts of the platform should be restricted just for the membership, whether it should all be open to all patient advocates and all stakeholders. Does anyone have a strong opinion on this? Please feel free to speak up. Laura, was it Helen who asked the question?
Yes, it was. Thank you, Helen. If you don't want to speak particularly, you can write your response in the chat too, and I will speak for you if you want.
Yeah, so the question was, should the platform be restricted to RDI members or parts of the platform be only for RDI members or completely open?
Hi,
I think
Hlawulani.
I think the practicalities of restriction become a bit daunting because we are membership organizations. All of our members are membership organizations. And if we make this available to our members as well, I'm going to have a hard time saying, you know, what you want a passkey for me to get onto it, and I'm going to monitor who's on it and who's using it. I think it becomes very challenging in terms of what we do. That means I think one of the things it would be nice to be able to have is beyond the curation of it is also a platform where people are encouraged to write their experiences of what they've done with it. And it really does become a community of its own, right? So that you get feedback and people can tell you what they've done. But I just don't see the practicalities of trying to, quote, limit it when we all have so many members that we're also trying to encourage to get engaged.
Thank you, Durhane. I think, Helen, you wanted to say something. I saw your face light up on the screen.
Yeah, thanks, Hlawulani. This is a difficult one because it's something that we faced as well with rare diseases South Africa. And look, in some cases, you want there to be benefits to being a member. And so then it's simple. It's just, and it's very simple to actually administrate. It's just a login that you have to go into that closed part of the website. But it all depends, I think, on the purpose of the information that's there. And in this case, if it's going to be something that could ultimately benefit the community more widely from being open to all and enabling those that are not involved in the community to actually dip into it as well, I think there's advantages to that. So I think it all depends on, you know, is it a benefit that we want to just be available to members, or is it something that we want to be open to all? And I think that's just the fundamental question that it comes down to. I don't see a huge issue in the administration side of it. It's just a case of having a login. Yeah. Thanks.
Great. Thanks, Helen. I think that's quite a key issue as to what the purpose is. And also maybe going a little bit deeper into what the benefits of membership into RDI should be and how we can define them. This is a conversation I would definitely like to have with the small working group that we would develop around the program before it's launched. Great. So
Maybe also to nuance it, Ritu comments, and that's also something to have in mind, that how we're enabling LD work globally. Why couldn't we have an open access so everyone could have access to it? And that's a point to consider, definitely. And also thank you for your comments about the interface and the format, because it will be in anticipation for the question we will ask to you after you have time to play on this.
Great. Helen is asking about functionality to add a can't we add a button on content anywhere? Great. So we're not really launching the program now. You're still in the test environment. I think in the long run, this is something that Durhane hinted to as well. It would be nice to have for people to be able to leave comments on how they've used it, maybe to rate certain tools. And I will be going back to you in the coming weeks as well to ask you directly to suggest content on the site. I do think one of the benefits of membership, though, should be the ability to suggest content for the site, which will be collating content. So and the possibility of having a member-led discussion and sharing those discussions with the bigger community. Okay, great. I think we can move along. I had been planning a little treasure hunt. I don't know if we have time for it. Let's try it. No, Durhane says, no, we don't have time for it. But so let's do that next time. I've read it. But maybe we can do instead, Laura, is to launch that poll that asks our members directly how they experiencing the platform on functionality, on content, and its usability. I'm just going to share a slide just for 1 minute before you begin.
Great.
Great. Cool. So, great. So the poll will ask you about the content. Is it useful? What else is missing? The layout, does it make sense to you? And the functionality. Please feel free to launch it, Laura.
Thank you, Hlawulani. So here we go. You have the 3 questions about the content, the layout, and the UX experience, the functionality. And so we will let you 1 or 2 minutes to answer to it, and then displaying the answer. Does everyone see the poll, right? Not yet?
Not yet, not yet.
Not yet. Okay. So glad I asked. And now?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Oof, great.
Do I get to vote also?
Yeah, you can vote, Veronica. Okay, great. We will share those results with you. I actually planned this poll to be a real poll, not just to confirm and say how great it is, but to show me where we can improve it and where we can make it better when we launch it again. So I was hoping it would not be 100% the content is great, but yes, there's something missing, because I'm hoping you can provide that something is missing. So 81% of you said the content was useful, which is good to know, affirms our team, but that maybe there is some material missing. So I'm hoping that whether it's within this call, suggesting links in the chat, but also just writing to our team and letting us know the material that you believe is missing, that you would like us to add, especially if it's material that is not in English, that would be particularly useful to us to make it a little bit more inclusive. The layout, was the layout clear? 81% of you said yes, it was clear. Yes, but it can be improved. Maybe somebody could let me know just in real time how we can improve it, because I do think we can improve it, but it's always good to hear it.
For now, there is mostly positive comment. Thank you everyone in the chat for the Helen saying the platform is great. It will likely evolve over time. That's for sure. Durhane commenting on the map, that is really beautiful, and indeed, like the map, I think it's really useful and gives something more interactive to the platform. I'm reading in real time, so
there is a comment about the font being bigger.
Okay, I think that's an important one, especially around questions of accessibility. I do wear glasses, so I understand the struggle. Making the font bigger. What about the combination of colors? Is that working for everyone, or does anyone find that a little?
There were the comments about that, particularly on the superposition on green and yellow, and something that wasn't clear.
Okay.
Yeah, that was from me, Hlawulani. Sometimes it's hard with certain colors. They don't go well together on top of one another. So if it's like that green on the yellow, it can be hard to read. So I'm happy to work with the team on like the UI UX of this, because I also think that we need to test it in dark mode to see how that works as well for some people who will use it that way. But other than that, I think the colors are happy.
Okay, great. No, that would be
Yeah.
fantastic. It's also interesting that you brought that up because our team had a little debate yesterday about the green and the yellow, and I think I hung on to it too long. And also the idea about accessibility, which is something our team doesn't have the capacity to do. So thank you for the offer. Great. Nadia's mentioned our friends with low vision. Yes, thank you, Nadia. Cool. So we have 4 more minutes. Maybe Veronica, we can look at the Miro and see if anything has come up. If anyone wants to add on anything onto the Miro, I will share that screen.
I'm slightly behind on the comments that keep coming in the chat, but you should see most of them. And I've started to put them by what's related to content, what's about the functionality, the format, and then additional ideas.
Okay, great. And I'm glad to see that Aleppo is interested in participating. Okay, great. Thank you. And thank you all for really taking part and playing along because your feedback is really essential to me. Flaminia will take us through some of the next steps for the program, and then we will have a little break. Thanks, Flaminia.
Thank you, Hlawulani. Are we putting back the slides? Yes. So the next steps. So we are now in June. So we had the feedback on the digital platform. So again, it's not only for now, it's also for, you know, in the next couple of days and weeks. Don't hesitate to send us your comments, your suggestions, and we're very happy to improve the platform, which we are going to be doing over summer. So as you see, from July to September, we're going to improve the functionality and the accessibility of the platform. Then between September and December, we will translate pages, and after testing the website, we will make it public. We are also planning to host a webinar on the new program, and we will launch a new and updated, improved toolkits on the WHO resolution and on universal health coverage. The idea is that as of 2023, so as of next year, we will continually improve the program, refine the program. So anytime you feel like there is something you'd like to make better, please don't hesitate. You might remember that in my presentation at the very beginning, I was telling you about the areas of the key areas of interest from members, within which there was also organizational development and sustainability, which is not something we currently have the resources to do ourselves at RDI. But what we are doing is that we are exploring some strategic partnerships focused mainly on these 2 areas that for which there was a significant demand from RDI members and also potential members wanting to join RDI, which is the resource on organizational development and sustainability. So thank you very much for your attention today, and we really hope and expect your constructive feedback on everything we do, and certainly on this strategic engagement program. Thank you.
So very quickly, don't leave. We're going to ask everybody to turn on the cameras, and we will use this as an opportunity to take a group photo. So we have 65 people on here, Rachel. So I don't know exactly how you manage it, but
yeah, can somebody take down the presentation so I have the full screen so we can do? I think I need to take a few full screen. And everybody turn on the camera. Wow. Okay. Still waiting for a few. Trudy, you don't have yourself the full head in. I see your roof. There we go. That's much better. Diego, everybody ready?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay, hang on. I'm gonna do the second one. 3, 2, 1. Okay, done. Oh, Shankai, you want to do it one more time? I see your finger. Okay, we'll do one more time, okay? Yeah, okay, somebody's still turning it on. Okay, yeah. More? Ready? Okay, no, don't move. All right, just hold on another few seconds. Don't move, because there are two screens. I don't. All right, 3, 2, 1. Okay, done.
Okay, that was wonderful. That was certainly a slam bang introduction in terms of our members meeting, and really a lot for everybody to participate in. So huge thanks to Flaminia, to Lisa and to Bonnie for taking us through all that, for putting all that together. So lots of opportunities to get involved. Really thanks to everybody. That was wonderful. So we do have 2 more exciting sessions that are coming up, and definitely, again, things that you will be able to engage in. We do have a break. We have, I think, based on the time, we have about 8 minutes left. We'd like to start promptly at 10 after the hour, whatever your hour is. We'll come back and we'll move into our advocacy session. And really, as Flaminia and Hlawulani have said, think about how you can use not only the website, but also things that you would like to propose in terms of member-led workshops. That would be amazing. And they don't need to be elaborate, but they do have to, I think, be things that could be, well, I guess they could actually be quite specific in terms of topics and quite focused in terms of even audiences that might be interested in it. Okay, so we'll take the break and we'll be back at 10 after the hour. Okay, I have 10 after on my clock. So I think given the content that we've got and as much as we've got, it really would be great for us to be able to get started. We've got a number of presentations on the advocacy. Advocacy is at the heart of what many of us do, advocacy and obviously membership support. So I think this is the next 2 sessions will really address those issues that are closest to us. And the next session on advocacy priorities will speak in terms of 2 chunks. One is obviously on the UN resolution, which everybody really worked hard in terms of getting passed last year. And we're going to talk about, I think led by Flaminia, the impact, Flaminia and Dolores, the impact of that resolution, but as important, the implementation of it, ongoing work with it. And then we're going to look into the next steps of universal health coverage and health equity, and how we're going to be hopefully working with the WHO and beyond the WHO in terms of realizing the equity, certainly for rare diseases, but also for everybody across the different geographic regions with universal health coverage. So without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Flaminia and Dolores. I think to start, it will be followed up then with, I think, moving directly into Roselyn and Christina from Rare Disorders Kenya, with Agnes Hoctor from the International Prader-Willi Syndrome Organization, Anna Meriluoto from the Fabry International Network, and Salome Mekhuzla from the World Federation of Hemophilia. Loving to see, as I said before, our international rare disease organizations really coming into this. So over to you, Flaminia.
Thank you, Durhane. Yes, so as mentioned, no, previous one, please. So as mentioned yesterday, especially in the activity report from 2021, we can really say that 2021 was definitely the year of the resolution. So 2022 onwards will be years of the UN resolution implementation and monitoring. So we can really say like the resolution and beyond, including the work towards a WHO resolution. Next, please. Just to give an idea of the time span though, let's remind ourselves of the timeline for the UN resolution. So as you know, the first time that rare diseases were introduced at the United Nations is already back in 2016 with the high-level event, and then with the second high-level event of the NGO Committee for Rare Diseases in 2019. And then really, as of December 2020, and January 2021, there was an acceleration and intensification of the work with civil society drafting the resolution around 5 key asks, with the policy event to mark Rare Disease Day 2021, with the July official side event to the high-level political forum, which is, I mean, you might know or not, but the high-level political forum is the body that monitors the sustainable development goals of Agenda 2030. And last year we did a side event at that occasion to push for the UN resolution. Then in September, there was 6 UN regional meetings, and there was through October, November, very intense both formal and informal negotiations. And on the 15th of November, there was the 3rd committee of the UN General Assembly adopting by consensus the UN resolution, which led on the 16th of December to the formal adoption by the UN General Assembly. Next, please. So, in order to talk about the impact of the resolution, I apologize for those who have already heard this way of talking about the impact of the UN resolution, but I think that we need to underline that the resolution has and will have impact at 3 levels. So first of all, the very process of working together as a community towards the UN resolution really gave the opportunity to many national organizations and international federations to put rare diseases on the table, on the agenda of policy makers, and to say, we have to talk about this. Then very clearly, I think we all felt it, but working together towards this common goal really strengthened the rare disease movement. I heard Alba and co-chair from FEDER, and also working very closely with Alibert, saying this yesterday, that working together has made the community stronger and actually also closer to each other. So this was already, there was already value in our common journey towards the UN resolution. Then there is what I call the intrinsic value of the resolution. Just the fact that this UN resolution exists has already value. So in terms of visibility, because the resolution put the spotlight on persons living with a rare disease as an invisible population. So making the invisible visible. And also it really put the spotlight on this population directly for society, policymakers, and health and social systems. So 1 is visibility. 2 is recognition. Because through this resolution, there is now a global recognition of the specific challenges of living with a disease that is rare. It's not the same as living with diseases that are common. It's not the same as other situations. It's very specific to the consequences that are derived by rarity. So now we have visibility, we have recognition of the specificities, and by joining visibility and recognition, we can really work towards social justice and equity beyond health, as you know, as all the holistic challenges together. So this is the second one. And then another very important positive impact of the resolution is the resolution as a door opener, like the resolution really unlocks door. So now when it comes to, as I said, there are many SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, that have been addressed within this resolution. When it comes to SDG 3 on health, we are now going to work much more with the WHO, with the backing of the UN resolution. I mean, I always have the UN resolution here next to me. It has become my Bible kind of thing. And when I look at it, I'm impressed with the very, very strong language about universal health coverage, about access, about equity that is now in this UN resolution adopted by 193 countries by consensus. So we have this very strong backing document to work more on SDG 3 for health with the WHO and on the other sustainable development goals in terms of the other agencies and programs. And then lastly, but very, very importantly, the UN resolution gives a global legitimacy. It gives a global framework to empower national groups, our members really, to drive advocacy at national level for their own specific advocacy priorities. Next, please. So sometimes I'm distracted because I see notes coming in and I try to read it, but I should concentrate. So now, in terms of the advocacy priorities, 1 and 2 is what we have now, and 3 and 4 is what we're going to do based on 1 and 2. So 1 is now we have, now since 2019, we have the political declaration on universal health coverage, within which there is this important specific mention of rare diseases. Then we have the UN resolution with this very strong language that we can base 3 and 4 on, let's say. We also need to prepare for, when is it? September, October 2023, when the UN General Assembly will consider the UN resolution again under social development. That means that we can put another, how do you call it? We can strengthen some aspects, not to change the resolution, but to discuss the resolution with a specific angle. Then you might have heard, but there has been some last minute difficulties in terms of a confusion between disability and rare diseases. There has been some even dangerous for the resolution, dangerous proposal to try and have this resolution included into living with a disability. We wanted firmly to keep the resolution about living with a rare disease, because there is a tendency in some countries and by some specific players to consider that persons living with a rare disease are already included into policies and measures for disability, which is not the case. So we have to still work on, let's say, 1 and 2, and move strong towards the work to get a WHO resolution. The angle of this WHO resolution would be universal health coverage for rare diseases. And then there is, of course, Flor Braga. You want to ask a question? Please go ahead.
Yes, it's something very small, but I want to say that the problem with the confusion towards disability and rare disease universe is not only in this direction, it's also the problem that many people with rare diseases, the most of the people with rare diseases has disabilities, and with the certificate of disability, they can access to treatment. So it's not only a risk to be confused, but it's also a bigger risk in our country, for example, and most of the third world undeveloped countries. to be non-considered people with disability when you have a rare disease. This is a problem. I don't know if I'm being clear.
Very clear, very, very clear.
Okay, our heavier problem is that if you have a disability and you work in the world, in the universe of disability rights, you don't want to be treated as a a sick person. This is something that is absurd. Is a kind of problem, of language problem. I mean, they have fear. They feel shame of being a people with a disease. They only want to be treated as a disabled person, and so we fight a lot to try to put in contact these words, disability and rare disease, because for many people is a possibility of access a treatment. So it's not so easy, the world of contact between those universe. With disability and rare diseases, I think it's a very sophisticated discourse that we have to develop for this relation, because in numbers, the people with rare diseases and disability is so huge that we have to rethink this relation. The social model of disability of the convention in the UN has the 25 article that speaks of the best health offer, that you have the right of the best health offer. And this is the most unseen article of the convention. Nobody speaks about the 25 article of the convention of the disability rights. And I think the contrary that you are expressing, that for many countries, the poor countries that have no access to medic treatments, maybe disability is something that we have to consider as a strategy of discourse. We have to put in contact those. I don't think that is the same. Of course, it's not the same thing, but we have to have a lot of care when we treat this relation, because for many of us, it's the difference between death or life to have this approach. So it's something that we want to propose to you, to RDI International, to write about the relations between the deficit of disability and the rare diseases in numbers. We have this, we need this data clear and a discourse very, very propositive. It's not so easy, this relation. I'm sorry, is that?
No, on the contrary. Sorry, Roberta, can I just say something before I give the floor to Roberta? So, Flor, it's really, I think it's really music to our ears what you are saying. It's because you will be very happy to hear, and Dolores will say a bit more about this afterwards, that since February, we have with us at RDI Lea Jebali, who is doing a kind of a thesis, an in-depth study based on literature review, survey, etc., etc. And she will organize a webinar exactly on the relationship between these two words. And also in parallel, we have also had contacts with the International Disability Alliance to make sure that we don't weaken each other's words and strength, but on the contrary, that we reinforce. So as you say, the interactions between these two words have to be treated with a lot of care, and we have to make sure that it's clear what derives from rarity and disease and what is a disability, and we make sure that both, I mean, persons living with both or with only one of them get the best possible health offer. So absolutely fully agreed with what you said. And I don't want to speak more, but I can speak 5 hours about this topic.
No. I want to offer my expertise. I am an expert I was the functionary in the government for disability. So I want to offer my expertise in disability rights, because
Fantastic.
I write a lot, and I have a group of investigation here that works with all Latin American people in the relations between disability and rare diseases. So we can offer
Fantastic.
our work.
Leah, you are there. Leah, can you say, can you just show yourself? Yeah. So Leah, you will be putting yourself in contact with Flor. Thank you. Roberta, please, sorry.
No, I want to say that I agree with Florencia, but there is something that we must be careful really, because there is a portion of people living with rare diseases that cannot access to the disability certificate. So because there are a portion of people that are not visible, their rare diseases. So it's something that we must be careful with, not leaving that portion of people outside, no? So that is something that I want to say.
Yeah, I don't know if Lisa Foster is here somewhere. I don't know if Lisa is attending.
Yes, but we in our committee group, and we discussed all this before, and I think it's something that we could follow with different comments around the world, but we have to be careful. I'm sorry.
It's always the right moment that these things
yes,
happen.
exactly.
Always.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no, but it's wonderful to see that there is indeed this interest, because we have put a lot of effort on this, and we're going to dig into this even more, and there will be a webinar, and all of your feedback is really, really welcome. Yeah. So let's go back to this when Dolores will talk, and then we will take your invitation to be involved, Florencia, and we will get back to you on this as well. Thank you very much. So where was I? Now I'm all confused. So yes, we were here at number 3, the work about preparing for a WHO resolution, really focusing on the sustainable development goal around health and access and universal health coverage. But then there is also all the other sustainable development goals that were addressed in the UN resolution, like access to decent work, access to quality education, gender equality, and all of the other SDGs that will need to be addressed with other UN bodies and programs and of Agenda 20, and with a holistic approach, the same holistic approach as the one in Agenda 2030, in order to leave no one behind. Dolores, please, I leave you the floor. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Flaminia, and to everyone else who's already starting to interact and comment. It's very, very exciting. I can't actually see your faces or the comments, so please, if I don't see something, just yell at me. And of course, my slides have decided to stop in the most comfortable of times. Okay, let's see now. Perfect. Okay, so just to give you an overview of what I will be speaking about, I really want to walk you through the international advocacy timeline. And I want to dive a little bit deeper into 3 areas of work that are related to our advocacy goals. So with regards to this international advocacy timeline, you can see that it really spans from the resolution and all the way to this WHO resolution, which for now we've called WHO resolution on UHC for rare diseases. And the target date for this is May 2024. So right now, as of today, we find ourselves right here. We just 3 weeks ago had an amazingly successful informal side event on strengthening health systems for rare diseases. And the next big event is during the first week of July. It will be a side event to the high-level political forum on sustainable development, which I'm sure many of you have heard of each year. Several SDGs are actually put under review, and our side event, which some of you will be participating and others watching, will focus on SDG 5, which is of course gender equality and the crossovers between gender equality and rare diseases. The next event that I want to draw your attention to is actually the 76th World Health Assembly, where we will be hosting yet another informal side event. And this time we'd like to focus on UHC for rare diseases. Why? Because we really want to start laying the groundwork for this resolution, really diving in, especially in Geneva at such a venue, on this exact topic. And the event just after, in September 2023, is an extremely important event. It's the high-level meeting on UHC, which will be taking place in New York during UN High-Level Week. This is an incredibly important occasion because the 2019 political declaration that Flaminia just mentioned on UHC will be coming under review. And basically what will be happening is that we'll be looking at the next steps that are needed to make sure that UHC is implemented in the next 7 years by 2030, correct? All the while we are working on the implementation of this declaration. We are working towards the adoption of a WHO resolution, which I will touch on in a bit more detail in just a second. And we are following up on the UN resolution with UN agencies. Sorry, my throat's getting dry. So this is the most exciting part of my presentation. This is really the work of Leah Jabali. She has been with us since February, and we are expecting that her deliverables will be coming in around August, September. Basically, what Leah has been doing is really first starting off with some desk research of the existing literature, touching on this exact topic, rare diseases and disability, which Flaminia was just hinting to you and what we were starting to have a very fruitful discussion about. So how are we going to position ourselves as a community? In March, Leah conducted actually 27 expert interviews. There was an amazing feedback, more interviews than actually we expected to have. And right now, as we speak, I can't see the chat, but I hope, Leah, you are doing so. She is launching the short member survey. So this is really for you. It is 5 minutes. Please do go ahead and click on that link and do the survey, because it is really the chance for us to hear from you on this topic. And I'm sure you have a lot to say. So it is open to members until the 1st of July. You have some time, but again, please do that survey, and Leah will be sending out an email next week. Excuse me, just 1 second. I just need some water. Thank you so much. So the next step that you can all look forward to is actually a webinar that Leah will be leading on the 19th of July at 2 p.m. Central Eastern Time. So this is going to be the opportunity for Leah to present her findings. It's going to be extremely interesting. So please, already you can jot down that date and attend. And finally, Leah will be handing in conjunction with her bachelor's thesis, her research report, and for me, most interestingly, her advocacy strategy. So that is kind of an overview of Leah's work on rare diseases and disability. The next piece of work that I want to speak to you a little bit about, and I'm sure many of you have already heard this from me, so bear with me. It's actually the work that I've been doing since I got here in January, since I took over from Clara on the WHO resolution. So what's been happening so far and what is still ongoing, because we still have quite a lot to learn and have already, is a benchmarking analysis of previous WHO resolutions. So really understanding kind of the structure, the lexicon, even maybe the advocacy history of such resolutions. Also, what I've been doing is a mapping of countries which are supportive to UHC in general and or UHC for rare diseases in particular. I've developed a draft document on the process towards a WHO resolution. And when I say the process, I really mean the kind of more bureaucratic administrative steps towards the resolution, and a note on the instruments within the WHO decision-making bodies and their respective legal capacities. So by this, I mean, what is the difference, for example, between guidelines that the WHO issues and a resolution? And again, of course, in the background to all of these specific actions, we are, of course, maintaining constant relations with the core group members. So Brazil, Spain, and Qatar. Just 3 weeks ago, at our informal side event, the WHA, I met with the Spanish Permanent Mission with Alban Cochea, and they were wonderfully supportive. We're also building additional relations with the co-sponsors. So, for example, at the informal side event to the WHA just 3 weeks ago, we had the pleasure of hosting 3 members from the Ministry of Health of Ivory Coast, and we were put into contact with them by the Permanent Mission of Ivory Coast in Geneva. And of course, another additional background action is building multi-stakeholder support, including with industry actors. So finally, the third kind of piece of really big general work that I want to present to you is our targeting of relevant UN bodies in our bid for intra-UN advocacy and UN implementation of the resolution. So as you probably know, there are 6 bodies of the UN. Here I've kind of picked on 3 that we really want to target, that we have and are already some. So the General Assembly, the Secretariat, and specialized agencies. So for example, with the upcoming side event to the High-Level Political Forum, we're already engaging with UN Women, and actually also with the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, who actually lodged the request for a formal side event. But of course, going forward, as you can tell, our work is very relevant to basically the entire Agenda 2030 and every SDG, but we can imagine contacting UNDP for SDG 1, UNICEF for SDG 4, the World Bank. Potentially one day we could see a global fund for rare diseases, and of course the ILO for SDG 8. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to give it over to member organization representatives to start off the discussion. I think Christine and Roselyn, you can have the floor. And after we're done with these amazing 5 ladies, we're going to have a short poll for you to get your feedback. But again, as Hlawulani said, please feel free to reach out to us via chat, via email. We are always open to discussing this. Christine and Roselyn, take it away.
Dolores. I'll be speaking on behalf of Rare Disorders Kenya. Christine is with us, but is having a bad cold and her voice won't be working today. So I'll do a bit of introduction. So Rare Disorders Kenya was started around 2018, and it's a patient-led organization. And basically, we seek to engage different stakeholders in the country and just to push for better healthcare system for persons living with rare diseases. And our objectives, among many others, is to educate and raise awareness in the country about the burden of rare diseases that exists, or rather seems people don't know that exists in the country, and to promote research in the country for rare diseases. So about last year, we took part with a UN resolution call by sending in our video where Christine and I talked about the challenges of rare diseases in Kenya and what we thought the UN resolution would address. It was a fun thing to do at the time. We didn't realize how big it will end up being. And we were very happy and proud to have been part of the process. We also wrote to the Permanent Secretary on the Ministry of Health in Kenya, asking them to support the resolution. They came a bit late, telling us, yes, we support it. That was after actually the resolution had been passed. And the fun bit is that they were telling us, oh yes, did you know that rare diseases are blah, blah, blah. We're like, yeah, we've been saying this, we know this. So, but it was fun hearing it from them and them acknowledging that they exist. And we also rallied our members to, participate in the call and also to just join in and follow what's going on. So when the resolution was read in December, a lot of our members, stayed up late. It was late here, and just to hear that final, words, and it was a celebration for us. Taking part in the campaign helped us as a country in the sense that it started that ball rolling, and for us as RDK, that is Rare Disorders Kenya, it opened a conversation with the policymakers. So we were able to start saying, oh, by the way, did you know this happened? So before, when we were having that conversation with them, it was always a game of numbers. How many are you? And, in the list of priorities, do you really think, you're very few. Do you really think you need an audience? So when the resolution came on board, then it was like, oh, if the UN has something to say about rare diseases, then it's time to say something, to do something about it. So it was a big thing for us. And even in fact, this Rare Disease Day this year, we had the government send a representative in a Rare Disease Day event where they talked, of course, with Flaminia and Hlawulani, who are also in the call, and what the resolution would mean for Kenyans and how, as a government, they will move it forward. So that was a key moment for us, which we celebrated, and it was good. We're starting to see each other as partners and no longer as you guys back there doing your own thing and just making noise, And then also we were able to engage other stakeholders. We had recently we had the first stakeholders workshop to do with rare diseases in the country, and we were able to tell them, oh, did you know that there's a UN resolution? In fact, even when we invited the WHO to attend, and they were like, oh, okay, there was a UN resolution, and then you have that. It's a conversation starter. So that really worked out so well for us. And finally, one of the big things and big wins that we had in the country is to have a technical working group for rare diseases in the country, first ever. So this will inform policies in the country. We are barely scratching at the surface, but we're getting somewhere. We're going somewhere with this. So we're very excited about this. So the impact of the resolution in Kenya legitimized our concerns and advocacy cries. Before we were just, sorry, I don't know where that came from. So before we were just making noise, we were just a bunch of women talking about rare diseases, and everywhere we went, even doctors do not have a clue what we're talking about. They thought we were talking about neglected diseases. And now having that backing, that resolution, it meant that there's a global picture, something else is going on. And also that there was the inclusion of rare diseases in the UHC policy in the country. Currently, Kenya is considered a friend to the UHC. A lot is being done about universal health coverage, and specifically for us, we are under NCD, that is non-communicable diseases agenda. We are being asked to, lend our voice because people are just thinking about cardiovascular, diabetes, among other things. And so now we're telling them, by the way, there are other diseases. And so we've been brought into committees and conversations to, add our voice. And finally, just that greater recognition of rare diseases in the country. And now we are having even media when we talk to them about rare disease. I'm like, yeah, we've heard about this. Can you please send someone to talk about rare diseases? And when they're looking for a story to do, they're always reaching out. So there's a recognition that there is actually people living with rare diseases and the challenges that these diseases pose to these families. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Roselyn. It's amazing, and congratulations to you and your team for your amazing, amazing, amazing work. So we have around 8 minutes left according to my clock. Agnes Hoctor, could you please take the floor? Go ahead.
Thank you. Hello. So I work for the International Prader-Willi Syndrome Organization. We're a membership organization, and our members are 43 of the national Prader-Willi syndrome non-profits from around the world. And beyond that, we have a wider network of contacts in around 100 countries. We share information and support about the syndrome amongst families and professionals, and we also help plug the gap in countries where there is no PWS association and maybe little knowledge about the syndrome. We also offer access to free diagnosis in countries where this is not available. Just briefly on Prader-Willi syndrome, it's a complex and rare neurodevelopmental condition which occurs when there's a lack of expression of one or more genes in a specific region of chromosome 15. And if you'd like to learn more about PWS, you can visit our website or find us on social media. We joined RDI in 2020. We believe it's absolutely vital to work at an international level when it comes to promoting the needs of people with rare diseases. In fact, this is the simple reason that IPSO was established over 30 years ago. Because the syndrome was so rare, our founders wanted to share the little information they had with other families and professionals who were facing the same challenges in their own countries. So we were really delighted to support RDI's campaign around the introduction of a UN resolution on persons living with a rare disease. To support RDI's campaign, we made use of their toolkit of assets to share the message across our social media profiles. We also included the call to action in our newsletters and encouraged our national members to lobby their governments directly to support the resolution. We wanted to show that we must work outside of our PWS community to bring about benefits that will help people, all people living with rare diseases. So it was fantastic to be able to report back to our supporters in December that the campaign had been a success. The resolution affirms that addressing the needs of persons living with a rare disease is essential to advancing the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, which includes access to education and decent work, reducing poverty, tackling gender inequality, and supporting inclusion throughout society. So this resolution can just be used by all of us to show that there's global support and recognition for the rights and needs of people living with rare diseases. Having this resolution in writing and adopted by the UN makes it an incredibly powerful tool to use in our discussions with policymakers at local, national, regional, and international level. Advocating globally is vital for the future health and well-being of people with rare diseases. And as the resolution shows, advocating together really works. Building on this, we want to see implementation of the resolution and the development of global frameworks for all rare diseases to challenge and address the huge inequalities that we see in diagnosis and access to care around the world. We know from our own experience with Prader-Willi syndrome how different a family's journey can be purely based on where in the world the child is born. Our vision at IPSO is a world where people with PWS and their families receive the services and support they need to fulfill their potential and achieve their goals. And we can only achieve this by working together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Agnes, and thank you for your support during the campaign towards the resolution. Anna Meriluoto, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. My name is Anna Meriluoto, and I'm representing Fabry International Network. Fabry Network is a global umbrella organization bringing together 62 patient organizations from 54 different countries. The membership is free for any organization that represents patients with Fabry disease in the world. In countries or areas with no patient organization, FIN relies on individual contacts and supporters. When advocating at the international level, the main focus is in sharing the latest information and raising awareness, keeping in mind that member countries can be at very different stages in their existence and journey. We also aim at sharing experiences, providing support, and finding out about the different unmet needs and challenges of Fabry patients in member countries, trying to help each other. The international cooperation is extremely important, especially for the smaller countries with limited resources. Learning from each other and benchmarking the best practices is of utmost value. FIN stays in regular contact with the physicians and experts to provide the latest research to its members, as well as meets regularly with all pharma companies who have or are developing a product to treat Fabry disease. The FIN board members also stay in contact and as voluntary experts at both the European Medicines Agency in Europe and the FDA in the US. We are also working towards starting a patient-led global registry for Fabry disease. FIN has been actively informing our community and membership about the advances of the resolution, both on our website, our newsletter, and all of our social media channels, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. We have tried to make a special effort to share information with the countries who need assistance in raising awareness amongst policymakers. As a single disease advocacy network, we feel that it is important to keep the membership posted on what is happening in the field of rare diseases in general, in order to remember that we are also part of a larger group of patients. Because as we all know, there is strength in numbers. The resolution, we feel, is an important tool that unifies all countries behind this important cause. It is especially important for countries that don't yet have a national plan for rare diseases and need help getting started or continue that process. It also helps underline the right for rare disease patients to get diagnosis and access to treatment in all countries, as well as the best possible care. A practical example from our member countries, or one of the active member countries in this case, would be in one of our neighboring countries in Europe, Greece, where the national organization, actually following the resolution, sent a letter and linked to the resolution to the Deputy Minister of Health, in order to raise awareness to keep rare diseases on the national agenda in Greece. It is pivotal to keep challenging the policymakers to keep the conversation going. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anna. I think we can all agree with that. And last up, Salome Mekhuzla, please go ahead.
Thank you, Dolores, and good morning, afternoon, and evening to all joining from different time zones. My name is Salome Mekhuzla. I represent the World Federation of Hemophilia. It is an international federation dedicated to improving and sustaining care for people with inherited bleeding disorders around the world. And we have a membership of 147 member organizations. I would like to thank RDI for giving me the opportunity to speak at this year's membership meeting. I had the privilege to have joined the RDI Advocacy Committee at the time when the UN resolution was being developed. Adoption of this resolution was a major milestone and a key achievement for the global rare disease community. But as you heard from Flaminia and Dolores, the work only continues. And as one of the key next steps, RDI has identified as a priority to work towards adoption of a WHO resolution now. This would be an important, an additional but important international policy instrument that patient organizations like ours can use to and leverage to advocate for equitable access to care in our own countries. Some of the main asks, at least the way I see it, of the resolution could focus around strengthening national health systems to improve diagnosis and clinical management of rare diseases. We see this in our experience with the inherited bleeding disorders community, that access to accurate but also timely diagnosis is a key barrier. And we hear about similar challenges faced by many rare disease groups, along with the lack of expertise and the need to develop more specialized centers that can deliver comprehensive care by multidisciplinary teams. And the work RDI is doing in parallel with the development of the collaborative global network of centers of expertise is important component in addressing this challenge as well. Another barrier that we see a lot is the lack of data, and putting in place robust data collection systems to measure patient health outcomes to inform clinical practice, but also for advocacy at national level is another priority. And WHO resolution will provide us with an opportunity to address some of these challenges at more length that were not necessarily covered in detail in the UN resolution. So I really see this personally as a next step. I also want to acknowledge the importance of learning from each other's experiences and even failures or successes of various rare disease groups. And would like to thank RDI for providing us with such opportunities very frequently. Many of the members have had successes in driving advocacy on national or international level, and we should really capitalize on that. We do have specific priorities that may be different, but we also share common challenges that are related to accessing diagnosis and care. As we move forward with developing the WHO resolution, each member organization should seek for ways to contribute to its adoption. Where I can see our role is in using our contacts or those of our member organizations to increase the support for the resolution and advocate with the national governments or healthcare decision makers when the call is launched. So I very much look forward to the next steps and to working with the RDI team and the other members to carry this important work forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Salome, so much. I can see you're already running ahead and drafting the WHO resolutions. It's good to see. Okay, so we're running just slightly over time here. The next step is to share a very short Zoom poll on advocacy with you right now that Laura will share, and you will have a minute to two, just like with the last one, to answer. Okay, so go ahead, Laura.
Thank you, Dolores. So I will share it and you will tell me if you see it well. Okay, so it's a poll with 3 different questions. No, sorry, this is not the good one. Up, second. Okay, here we go. Maybe Dolores, I'll let you introduce the poll.
Thank you so much, Laura. Okay, so this is the 3-question poll on the second session for advocacy. The first question reads, have you referred to the UN resolution in your advocacy efforts since December 2021? No, yes, to some extent. The second question, in which way do you think the UN resolution has helped or can help you most in your advocacy efforts? A, through raising awareness, B, by getting the attention of national or regional policymakers, or C, by way of empowering you to approach institutions such as the UN or WHO. And finally, how do you think you could best be a part of RDI's journey towards achieving a WHO resolution in May 2024? A, through helping solidify the key asks of this resolution, B, by contributing to the national or regional awareness raising campaign for this resolution, or C, garnering national or regional support for the WHO resolution. Please go ahead.
Maybe we'll let you a few seconds more to finish completing the poll, and then I will share the results. Just to let you know also, we posted the picture we take earlier. Thank you, Rachel, for the beautiful picture on Twitter. I will let the link in the chat so you can reshare it. And thank you for all your presentation earlier. It's impressive, the work in terms of advocacy and communication. And I really do feel that together in terms of communicate, we are really, really stronger. Thank you, everyone. So now I think it's okay. So let's see what it's done. Okay, can you see it?
Yes, thank you so much, Laura. So we will take note of the answers and we can share them with you later. I'm just going to quickly go through them. So for the first question, have you referred to the UN resolution in your advocacy efforts since December 2021? The vast majority of you, 75% said yes, 21% said no, and 4% said to some extent. For number 2, in which way do you think the UN resolution has helped or can help you most in your advocacy efforts? 54% said by getting the attention of national or regional policymakers, 29% said through raising awareness, and 17% said by way of empowering you to approach institutions such as the UN or WHO. And finally, for the third question, how do you think you could best be a part of RDI's journey towards achieving a WHO resolution? 46% said contributing to the national or regional awareness raising campaign, 38% said garnering national or regional support, and 17% helping solidify the key asks. Okay, that's amazing. Thank you so much for answering that. It's actually invaluable feedback, especially as we continue down the advocacy timeline. We've run over time, so please, if you have any further feedback, feel free to get in touch with us, make me a chat, a message, what have you, and I'm going to give it over to Durhane. Thank you.
Thank you, folks, very much. That was such a powerful, powerful session, and huge thanks starting with Flaminia, and also for the feedback and discussion. It only goes to show we really do need to do these in a much longer time frame. Obviously, it's hard. I think it's amazing that people are willing to sign on for 3 hours for a Zoom call, and I think it really behooves us. I'm saying to all of our people at RDI, we really need to get back to in-person meetings where we can have people have the opportunity, even do breakout sessions where people will have the time to do this and really delve into these issues, because it is, not just the presentations, and you got powerful presentations, but it's the opportunity for people to discuss, to raise their different views and their different experiences, in real time, in real life, that will help us. We can always do it, the way we're doing it, and we will continue to, but I think we even see how important it is. So we are indeed over time. If we can indulge all of you to just do whatever it is that you need to do very quickly, you do not have 10 minutes for a break. I think we're going to try to start back in about 5 minutes. So if you could do that for us and come back, because we do have a very important session that Mary's going to lead us through on something that obviously must be close to all of your hearts, and that is on the access. I just want to do a shout out to my colleagues from Asia Pacific who are here. It is late there, and we know that you're staying up and doing this with us, and we are just thrilled. Either that, you just got your picture on the screen and you just got it on. No, I'm only kidding. I know you're here with us. We look forward to following up in the Asia Pacific and look forward to what we can do within that region to take advantage of all of these opportunities. So just a shout out to those people who are hanging in with us and come back with us for this last session. Thank you. Okay, I think we're going to try to start again, just because we again have a very, very full session, and we want to give the opportunity to not only hear about it, but also hopefully an opportunity where we can get some back and forth engagement. So we're getting to probably the topic that's closest to, I think, many of our hearts in terms of working with our communities, and that is access. And we're going to do this. We're going to actually go through three issues: the operational description of rare diseases, which I just love, and I'm using all over the place, and really getting a lot of positive acknowledgement from people as we're talking about this as a description and not just a definition. Going to talk about the access task force that we have ongoing with between RDI and ERDIC on the essential medicines list, and then moving towards an essential diagnostics list. And to do that, we're going to have Mary Wong, who's the science policy manager for RDI. It's going to take us through it. And then we're going to have participation from Helen, I'll never get your name right, Helen Malherbe from Rare Diseases South Africa, Rachel from the China Alliance for Rare Diseases. And we're going to talk a bit more with Nuala Ryan with the NCBRS worldwide. So moving forward in terms of global access. Mary, over to you.
Thank you very much. So I'm here to tell you more about the global access work that we've just started doing. This is my first membership meeting at RDI, so I was very excited hearing, the discussion and meeting many of you online. So yeah, echo what Durhane was saying. Hopefully you in person soon. So about access. So when we start to talk about access and facilitating access and equity, we often hear from our members that the very first barrier is the lack of recognition, lack of visibility for persons living with rare disease. And so we go into this, how do we tell others about rare diseases? And you can see from this map, currently there are no universally recognized definition of rare disease or a comprehensive description of rare disease, because the existing definitions, they are based on prevalence. They were actually historically coming from a regulatory angle to boost research and development and providing incentives for pharmaceutical companies. So it's not always adequate and it's not comprehensive to actually describe rare diseases and the challenges that our community is facing. And we really need to have a common language so that we can have that dialogue, have that conversation to boost health policy planning and to have interoperability between of data, to have monitoring implemented, and so we can compare different countries, different regions, and eventually improve access to many of the services that we need. So within the context of the operational, of the memorandum of understanding between RDI and WHO, we have this item to develop the operational description of rare diseases. And it is it is a policy document aimed at informing the WHO and the member states and decision makers when taking public health policy decisions. And so we think, and also you heard from Dolores and Flaminia just before, this document will support the already existing documents to give the frame for implementing the political declaration on universal health coverage and the UN resolution, so we know who we're talking about. So I want to tell you what happened during this time. So the MOU was signed back in 2019. And I think you heard the first meeting, the first presentation from Anna Rath from Orphanet. We have a long collaboration with them just to have a scoping discussion. And then we submitted a conceptual description framework last March in 2021. And then in this March, we submitted the final operation description of rare diseases. We debuted this public presentation in the policy event last month, and we're just now a little bit after. So in the 5 months, actually before March submission deliverable, we worked really hard. We had a big panel of experts coming together to actually delve into the discussion of what is rare disease. How do we describe rare diseases? Then we had 18 experts coming from 6 continents, and many of you were involved, also coming from our membership. Roberta, I think she had to leave. Wang and Helen, and we will hear from her a little bit after. And very importantly, we also have participation from the World Health Organization, from the Classification and Terminology Unit, and we have them as guests here in this meeting, and we will hear from them also just a little after. So we have persons coming from, we experience in public health, coming from pharmaceutical company. We have perspectives of clinicians, from research, and also terminology specialists. And it was actually really, really nice. And I really need to acknowledge and thank the experts for their dedication and time, because we really kept asking them several very difficult questions to come together to build a consensus on what is rare disease. And I want to tell you a bit more about the process, how we actually came about this document. And so after we formed the expert group, we took a structured consultation methodology to build towards a consensus. So this is how it went. We had 3 workshops and also supported by surveys offline. So really kept them going over the months to consider what are rare diseases. So we had starting off to first identify which were the elements that are important to define rare disease. And so it was a brainstorming, and we had many ideas coming up, and then we had to prioritize that, what are the most important. And through a survey, and we came back and we discussed the different perspectives and compare and refine our priorities again. And with that, we moved towards a document describing, so what are the wording that we need to include, and we come sometimes actually often picking specific words or leaving out specific concepts or including specific concepts following this long discussion. And so that is where we got to. And this was the product of that long work of the operational definition of rare diseases. So it's framed in 2 parts: a core definition, which describes what is rare and what is disease, and with the round part outer side, a descriptive framework, which provides information on the interpretation of the core definition. And these frameworks are highlighting the challenges arising from rarity, from the frequency of their medical conditions. The second framework describes, going into the detail, the burden of rare disease on patients, caregivers, families, and also health system, and also society as a whole. That requires greater visibility and recognition. And then the last framework going to having this document as a common reference to call for actions, to catalyst for actions to address the unmet needs. So I'm not sure, maybe for the interest of time, I will not go into too much detail of that. So just to say that there were really important elements which we included into that core definition, which included recognizing present living with rare disease. And this kind of introduction was going already into providing an introduction to the framework. That's complementing the core definition and having the threshold, aligning very importantly on the international classification of disease, using a clinical presentation, so the phenotype symptoms as a definition for disease. And we were inclusive of all rare diseases irrespective of their severity or how they were caused. And we're also recognizing different classes of rare disease because that may boost different policy, targeted policy decisions or research directions. So rare genetic diseases, rare cancers, et cetera, et cetera. Also, very importantly, we wanted to acknowledge and recognize the undetermined conditions, because these are the conditions which are so rare, they don't have a name yet. There's no data to how to diagnose them. So, but they are rare and they are there. We want to acknowledge that too. So with that, I actually want to already invite our guests from the WHO. Karine, I think you're online. I saw you before. I'm not sure if Eva is online, to tell us more on your perspective in the collaboration of this piece of work and how important it is to align with the ICD-11.
Thank you, Mary. Yes, I'm here. Eva apologizes. She's a bit unwell, so she cannot join. But we're all very happy to contribute to this important definition. From our perspective, it all started when you reached out to us, and we have a clear definition of disease in the International Classification of Disease, and it's online, everyone can access it. And we wanted to start with this base definition, and then because it has the symptoms, etiology, course, the treatment response, and all the important things that to have in a definition of disease. And then we built on that and we came to this, and it was an excellent collaboration with everyone. We contributed to the document from WHO perspective as well. And we thank you all for this. I'm gonna take the chance to briefly talk about ICD-11 because also, as you were mentioning interoperability, you were mentioning the common language. Most of you already know that the ICD is the common language that countries use to communicate in terms of health information, in terms of, to have comparable statistics, whether for mortality or morbidity. And it is legally mandated, and it's a global health good. So we are trying to have a uniform perspective and perception of the diseases, and this has been there for more than 150 years. And I'm not going to go into details about the history, but luckily now the 11th version is digital, and it's free. It's available for countries to use. And we have integrated terminologies, classifications. We have aligned with a lot of classifications out there to make the ICD a full comprehensive classification of diseases so that countries can use it. It is scientifically up to date. If you remember an ICD-10, those of you who know ICD-10, it's a book-based and it's outdated. In ICD-11, we have a proposal platform where we can, everyone, even you guys can submit proposals, but of course it has to have a valid rationale and evidences, and they are taken into consideration within our network and experts and committees and reference groups, and you can contribute to the classification. We have also collaborated a lot with Orphanet to include all rare diseases within ICD-11, and that's the main focus here. So that's why I wanted to give you an overview of ICD-11 and tell you that we have all rare diseases within ICD-11, whether is it with a URI, which is the unique identifier, or a code. And we are working very closely with Anna's team to keep this collaboration. And we also are going to work with Mary and Durhane, who has graciously agreed to have a webinar on ICD-11 and rare diseases so that we can also increase the awareness and sensitize people on ICD-11. I have a lot of things. It's free, it's available. I don't want to take too much of your time. I'm going to send you in the chat the links to our pages, social media. You can reach out to us. We're available. We have the ICD mailbox if you have questions. And I don't know, Mary, if you want to add anything else, but I try to be as brief as possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. And it was great meeting you in Geneva back in May. This is really fantastic and music to our ears. I think so. Being aligned, having rare disease coded is really important and fundamental to start having them monitored, tracked in different health systems and across the globe, and that kind of starts data and facilitate research, and so yeah, this is fantastic work. Thank you for that. And so I'm gonna call on Helen. Going back a slide. Helen Malherbe from Rare Disease South Africa, and she also took part in the expert group in the lead up to the operational description. So Helen, would like to tell us how it's been for you, and please go ahead.
Thanks so much, Mary. And just for reference, it's Helen Malherbe. I know it can be a bit confusing between the Afrikaans pronunciation and the French. But so I was involved in this whole process in my role at Rare Diseases South Africa, which is a non-profit organization that works to ensure that people living with rare diseases and congenital disorders experience better recognition and support, improved health services, and a better life overall. What I've done is I've just written down a few points. And the first one being, I think this was such a needed exercise that we needed to go through, because it's been something that we've been needing as a tool for all of our efforts for such a long time. So I think it's given us that solid foundation, being on the same page and just having that consensus. I mean, and Durhane has already said that she's using it so much, and it's something that we were using, but without the evidence base, and this gives us that evidence base that we need. And so there's intrinsic value in it already. Having that document alone has got so much value. For me personally, I felt that it was a great networking opportunity to be part of this and just to be working together with so many colleagues from different disciplines, different countries, different stakeholder groups. And it was a very kind of fertile melting pot that enabled a lot of different perspectives to come out of. So I really enjoyed that. There were only a few low middle income countries in there, and I think, and I know that wasn't the shortfall of RDI. I think somehow we need to try and encourage more low middle income countries to get involved in these kind of fora, because sometimes we do have a unique perspective. So it was a privilege for me to be on that group and to present those. And I just want to applaud Mary, because it was such a challenging process. And the phrase herding cats comes to mind, because bringing order from the chaos of all of those different views and perspectives, I think it was really challenging. And I think having that really robust methodology that we went through really was so necessary. And again, that was a learning experience for me to learn how to bring order out of chaos. So I really appreciated that. Thank you. And in that process, I really feel that I was heard, and that my perspective was my inputs were valued just as much as everybody else. So that was that was important for me. One thing that I also found very interesting was, as you've just presented now, you have the core definition, but then you have the descriptive framework to actually provide context. And looking at the final document now, it seems like a no-brainer to have that. But from our perspective, we'd worked at the similar time to develop a description, a core definition for South Africa. And we hadn't given that context. So that was a real eye-opener. I think it's very powerful, because if we're going to be sharing a core definition with policymakers, it makes sense to have that framework that goes with it, because then it's a tool and an opportunity to sensitize policymakers to all the issues that are related to rare diseases and people living with rare diseases. So integrating and wrapping that definition up with those issues was crucial. And I think going forward, using this core definition and operational description in South Africa, it's very timeous for us, because we're in the process of developing our rare disease strategy. It's already been had input by a number of stakeholders, and we're taking it up to another level in the next few months with an event that we're hosting for stakeholders. And I think that core definition will, to a large extent, be center stage, because I think it gives us strength and leverage in our advocacy activities, showing that the international rare disease community is on board with this, and it's not just a localized issue that can be kind of discarded or pushed to one side. So all in all, thank you very much for involving me, and it was a privilege to be a part of it. And I think, Mary, the final document is fantastic, and I think it's going to go a long way towards advocacy for rare diseases. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for your kind words. And that's fantastic to hear it's already being used. I remember it was kind of chaotic when we arrived at the final document. It kind of feels obvious, but it was not obvious when we were coming through all the different perspectives. And indeed, when you said a very important point, so I'm going to come to it. Just also, I have a poll for you. So we do have now this document, and I heard now already some examples how it is you would like to use and how that could support you in your advocacy work or your discussion with your stakeholders. So I would actually like to hear from you how it would help you and how we can support you. And so I'm also echoing the message from Hlawulani from the beginning. How can we use these materials to help your work? And I have a poll also to launch. I would like to hear from you what kind of material that you would find useful to actually be able to use this work effectively. So Laura, you can launch that, and I might just talk while you're looking at this. So I just thought we have now this document, so maybe you would prefer to have more spaces to actually discuss, to ask questions about the operation description, or you would like to see infographic or slides and materials that you can use and also disseminate. Posters, videos, or the document itself, or you actually looking more now, having toolkits, slides that you can use, FAQs, letters that you can already send off, or other ideas that you might have. As Flaminia mentioned yesterday, so this year, MOU, we're starting now to do the assessment and impact assessment on different stakeholders when they come to adopt the operational description. And starting, I think we're soon, the first one will be talking to our alliance of companies on their feedback. And I think we also want to do perhaps regional workshops to hear from how this might be taken up in different areas. So please share your ideas and priorities with us.
And afterwards as well, obviously. So now we have this poll, but sometimes it's a bit difficult to fully answer.
You need to think about it.
Yes.
And I know you cannot do the multiple choice. And Laura, we can close it.
Yeah, I think we can share it, and well noted for the all above for the poll.
Yeah, it's true. Okay. So I'm seeing have more space to discuss from 36% of you. And so this is something we can certainly look into arranging and having the materials, of course, more readily accessibly at hand. So right now we have a long document and we have some slides on this, so we can work on that, develop supporting materials and adapt to kids. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for that. And so with that, I'm going to move on to the second part of my activities here. So on the access to diagnosis and treatment. Also, before I go on, just really much thank you, Karen and Helen, for being here and providing your thoughts on this work. So why are we talking about essential medicines? So on the universal health coverage, so you heard from Flaminia our priorities regarding universal health coverage. And I just want to highlight, so when you go into the SDG 3 on good health and well-being, it mentions this specific target, achieve universal health coverage includes financial risk protection, access to quality essential healthcare services, access to safe, effective, quality, and affordable essential medicines and vaccines for all. So this is also a reason why we're looking at essential medicines. But when we're having this discussion, I think it was clear to also first to know which are essential medicines for rare diseases. And so in that discussion, Durhane within the RDIC had proposed to launch the Rare Disease Treatment Access Working Group back in 2020, and it was prioritized and activated. The working group was established to really take on the challenges regarding access, and so looking at improving standards of care and promoting access to the essential medicines, and doing research into barriers to accessing these medicines, and then try to define opportunity to recommend how to address these barriers. And so now in the phase 2, so the first point has been done, let's say, and now in phase 2 into the research of barriers, this is now being coordinated by RDI under the collaboration RDIC Rare Disease. So I just want to say from RDIC to RDI Global Access Working Group launched last year. Oh, I'm seeing a hand there. Is that a question?
Yes, thank you, Mary. No, I think it's wonderful what I'm looking at in my screen, because in ULAPA, the Union of Latin American Patients, we are preparing our initiative for next year is access. We have to work, access is the problem. Third word, the problem is access. And the big subject that we want to work is the question is, because we don't know really if we have an answer, if we can really speak about precision medicine as a right that everybody will have in the future, because in our countries, poor countries, countries in development, the prices of medicines are absolutely far away of the power of the people. And so what we think is that the problem is bigger than we talk always. We talk always about the governments, the problem is the price, and what we do with the development of all those medicines, the new post-genomic medicine, and all the transference of technology in gene therapies and everything. You know that in FDI now we have 5,000 trials, clinical trials for gene therapies. In our country, with only two gene therapies, the system collapsed. And those gene therapies will go to the market, will get into the market, and we are happy because we need it. My son needed gene therapy, so we want that. But we know that it's completely impossible to speak about a big access for everybody. And we think that maybe in Argentina, in Alapa, we think that maybe the evaluation of technology, the evaluation of ETS is the name in English, Evaluación de Tecnologías Sanitarias, no, Health.
HTA, Health Technology Assessment.
Yes, thank you. We think that there's not the good answer for poor countries, because the only thing that they determine finally is who will receive this medicine. So the medicines are approved, but the programs of health will buy only for a few guys with this idea of approach of evaluation. So what we are speaking is with people of several universities, people that comes from politics and economies, about the concept of health justice, justicia sanitaria, health justice for the third world, in terms of what will happen with precision medicine access. And we have a paper that we want to approach to you. We are absolutely interested in participating in this table, and we ask to our ministry to create a new permanent table of work between three ministries, production, health, and science. And it's the first time that it will happen in Latin America. And this table is managed by us, the patients. And we want to create this dispositive for all Latin America. And really, I was speaking with a colleague from Africa today here, because we want to know what is happening in Africa, because we thought that in Africa is the same situation, that access is a legend. If we speak about, yes, access, but who will access finally? Is this something serious, what we're speaking about human rights and health? So if you are interested, Mary, I would love to approach our document.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, indeed, it is very complex topic, and we hold your thought on the advanced therapies. So maybe we will come to that point.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you. So I will, in interest of time, I will move on a little bit quicker. So last year, the working group coming from ERDIC, they published the ERDIC essential list of medicinal products for rare diseases. And this is now available for consultation, to download, to look at. I included the link there, you can look at and filter. So it's really there now to help to stimulate interactions, your conversations and discussions with the important stakeholders regarding access to treatment. So now, just to tell you a little bit more about how it's evolving now in the working group. So the working group is chaired by Durhane and Bill Gao from the NIH US. Many of you are involved in this working group. We also have other participants from IRDIC and also from industry. And so now we're in the phase 2 of the working group, and where we're now looking into have a better systematic way to identify barriers to access. It is a hugely complicated issue, and there are studies already available, but what we would like to do is to take a bottom-up approach to hear from you, from patient organizations, from persons living with rare diseases. They have this real experience in what they're confronting at the ground. And so we're launching case studies regarding access to essential medicines. And so we want to look at, with time, building on different use cases to learn from what are the challenges, maybe just classic drugs, or enzyme replacement therapies, biologics, or the off-label drugs, or innovative and very expensive drugs, as you just mentioned, gene therapy. So they all have different type of challenge. And what we would like to do is looking at from the case studies to learn from them and see what are the current barriers. Pricing is a big issue, but not only. So we want to be able to identify them and talk about them and develop recommendations. So right now we have agreed on the first case to look at cystinosis. And so this is a work in progress. We're trying to gather some information, availability of medicines to treat cystinosis, and try to understand and learn from that first case. Just to say, yes. So coming towards with all the uses coming in, so we would like to build this framework for drug journey. You can see indeed here how complex that pathway would be for accessing, once even a medicine is approved, to actually be delivered to the patients. So maybe some medicines would require some of these milestones or approaches that need to be checked, and others maybe not. So we would like to have a direction of what the success would be, what are the dangers, what are the risks, to really facilitate access in a more systematic way. So I'm conscious of time, so I'm going to move on. So now you can see we're now developing 2 work streams. One is trying to talk more about the essential medicines, and we've also engaged the WHO's essential medicines and essential diagnostics teams. So we're engaging in this discussion how to develop, how to have a reference list of medicines, essential medicines for rare disease and diagnostics. So that is ongoing work. And then this drug access framework to map barriers, to understand how we can navigate through this treacherous road. And so I'm going to now call Rachel Yang. I think you know her very well, to just do. So Rachel had been involved from the beginning, from the IRDIC working group, and now coming through with the publication, and now in the new working group. Rachel?
Yes. Hi, Mary. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Rachel. So if you can tell us your experience in this collaboration also with IRDIC, and now the involvement, how it's been evolving.
Oh, sure. Yeah, it has been really a wonderful experience. I think initially when I joined the project working group, I remember everybody was essentially kind of discussing what the criteria it is to have drugs included in this kind of a list. And I think soon we realized, instead of spending time arguing which criteria should weight more, and we decided to publish a kind of all-inclusive approved list in all 3 major markets, the US, European, and China. And looking back, I think this is really a very good pragmatic call, because even though we didn't include criteria, we kind of just made a comprehensive compilation of approved drugs. And later when I found out, yes, actually people are looking at it, and people actually feel upset if their drug is not on the list. And people even give in feedback on the names. For example, there's this disease, Strauss disease, which has a approved drug, first in US in the 1970s or 80s. So it was approved quite some years ago, and then was approved in EMEA. And so the person who contacted me works in GSK in China, because China NMPA just approved this drug in last year. So of course they looked at it, said, "Well, where is our drug?" So the drug is missing, and secondly, you didn't update the name of the disease. So I'm really very surprised to find people not only read the paper that we wrote, they actually went through the list and correct our mistake. So I think with people like this, it really keeps us honest, right? We need to really continue our work. We need to have a plan in place so that we can have a mechanism so that we update our compilation, and also whenever we find a mistake, we need to correct it. So I think this is really kind of the force that keeps us going, because obviously companies and also patient organizations. There's another instance, it's a patient organization reach out to me, essentially inquiring, certain drug treatment, and they also they're very interested in knowing that there is such a compilation list existed. So it's just very encouraging for those of us who have been working on this project.
Thank you, Rachel, and then we will continue to work on this project. We have a lot of work to do. And so now I'm going to switch gears slightly, because we're also talking about access, but we're also talking about global collaborations as a really important path in our strategic engagement program, and having you involved in different activities. And so slightly related, not really on the access to medicines, but access to diagnosis and care. And so based on the boosts in the technology during COVID, we're seeing a lot of discussions on telehealth and how this technology can also help our community. And so Nuala Ryan, I think she's here.
Yes, I'm here.
So, great, fantastic. So she's joined the IRDIC task force on telehealth, and after seeing our dissemination. And so I'd like to invite her to tell us a bit how it's going and how the collaboration is.
Yeah, thanks, Mary. So yeah, my name's Nuala Ryan. I'm from the NCBRS Worldwide Foundation. And I got involved in this task force through, I suppose, last November. They were looking for nominations, and I was nominated through RDI. So I was, delighted to have that opportunity. We then kind of was accepted onto the task force, and we kind of started work with kickoff around February of this year. We're really at the early stages at this point, and we're just completing a literature review, which we need to do to kind of identify some of the key areas. So really what we're trying to look at is the kind of usage by the rare disease community of telehealth, how that can add value specifically for that group, and really how can we ensure the adoption of this to the best of its kind of ability. What factors can enhance or limit the use in the rare disease community, how easy is it to access, and what models can be used. And really then second phase is identifying the barriers and the opportunities for use of the telehealth, so how it can improve access specifically to patients, to get earlier diagnosis, to get more access to kind of experts kind of globally, to encourage more research and in the area of rare disease. And then finally, in terms of kind of, the rollout of this in the community, how can we develop the best practices, and how can we kind of give guidances on those best practices for introducing the telehealth services? So we'll just move on to the next slide, Mary. So just in terms of why this was important to me to kind of be involved in, you know, some of the advantages for the rare disease community as well. I think it's a big thing. Obviously, you know, rare diseases in NCBRS Worldwide Foundation, I think, you know, we have about 226 patients with NCBRS. So you're not going to have many experts around the world that are, you know a lot about. So it is important that, you know, through telehealth, that patients can get increased access to that expert care. And I think from an educational point of view as well, for physicians, clinicians looking after patients, there can be much more kind of access to increased knowledge of treatments and rare disease for rare diseases through kind of educational plans and collaboration between physicians, and development of modules to help, you know, treat rare diseases through those communities. I think for researchers as well, it really kind of helps encourage that research, access to patient populations with their rare disease of interest. So, you know, developing those communities to get access to that information to help develop new treatments, and just even if there's no treatments, just even the way the management of the disease is done, or particular elements of the management of disease. And then, you know, going forward, just looking at developing policies for this whole service in terms of, you know, making it a valued kind of aspect of care. Because I think obviously telehealth was kind of taken up during COVID, but it's kind of dropping off probably a little bit now. So, you know, how can we, I suppose, maintain that momentum and really kind of make it the best use? So that was it. I mean, similar to Helen, I think, you know, it's a great opportunity for me as part of the NCBRS Worldwide Foundation to kind of create more awareness of our particular disease, but also to network with lots of different people across the projects. So I'm looking forward to kind of continuing that. We've been working in mini subgroups for the moment, and then we'll be kind of coming back together and sharing ideas. So thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you. This is very interesting work. So we will stay tuned and follow the discussion here. And so this comes to the end of my session. It's been really, really useful. And I feel like there's still a lot of discussion needed, but I think also out of time. So I don't know what the situation is with the time.
The situation is that you are out of time.
I am out. Okay. Thank you, everybody. It's been really, really useful for me. And so I just want to say that we're really all here to serve you. So
thank you so much, Mary, and thank you for the entire team in terms of helping to move all of these items through, and certainly for the speakers. This is truly a multi-stakeholder set of activities, initiatives from the WHO to ERDIC to certainly the other global initiatives that are all part of it. So thank you very much for presenting this and creating all these opportunities. And I agree with whoever was talking about Mary, Helen was talking about Mary in terms of her leadership. This is really impactful. You see Mary, and she always presents this great deal of calm. And and if you really want to hear how she can be calm in the face of the storm, you need to talk to her about her last delivery of her last child. So there would give you some indications as the kind of steel that Mary is made of. And I didn't mean to tell tales out of school, but I just love Mary in terms of what she can bring to a situation, both in terms of her scientific abilities, in terms of her technical skills, but also in terms of her absolute leadership and management. So thank you very much. We wouldn't be here without what you're doing. So thanks to the entire team. I do not have a whole lot. We're almost out of time. And I just want to conclude, unless somebody else has a burning comment that they need to make at this point. And if you do, you better be great.
No, it's not great, Durhane. It's just to underline and highlight all the great comments we have received in the chat, and that we're going to treasure within the team at RDI. We're going to process it, and we're going to do the best out of all of your inputs. And thank you very much to everybody. This is just what I wanted to say. So it's not great. It's just what the others have said that is great.
No, it is very impactful. I also appreciate the fact that we had, patients, individuals, we had caregivers, we had patient group leaders, we had National Alliance leaders, we had healthcare professionals on there, we had policymakers on this, and everybody actively participating. This really is what the RDI community is. There's not a whole lot we can say. This is, I think, as we say, it is astonishing to me that this is the 8th members meeting. And if we can compare it to our first members meeting, I think we realize, and we should look with a great deal of pride of what we've been able to achieve. Huge, obviously kudos to Flaminia for taking on the role of executive director and for putting us on this trajectory. And certainly huge thanks to the team you've got around you, some of whom we have known from the very beginning. I know Veronica always talks to me about my daughter, but I knew her when she was still in diapers, kind of just running around. Not exactly, but, and many of them who we've seen, right? Hlawulani, who has made such an amazing impact and has really, I think, also developed considerably in terms of all the skills that you have demonstrated today. So huge kudos. And I know you did not come with a website designer training. So you've done that, and you've done it, through your own perseverance and development. So huge thanks to everybody. We're lovely to have Dolores here, who is technically a Canadian, though she probably doesn't admit it a whole lot, but she is technically a Canadian and one of our, everywhere I go in the world, I meet Canadians who say, I'm a Canadian. I say, what the hell are you doing here? Why are you not back in Canada helping us out here as we're trying to launch our own rare disease strategy? So at some point, I'm going to drag you back and make you contribute back to what we're doing. So huge thanks to everybody. I say sincerely, I don't think there's anything that's been presented today that you should not be, wanting to take part in. You should not be able to take back to your own work and be able to make the most of it, and also being able to work with us in advancing globally. It's all of us putting this together, right? So I also just want to say on a personal note, thank you to everybody who voted and gave me the opportunity to continue to work with RDI. It's been absolutely, the greatest privilege of my life in terms of my work, and really has expanded so much that I've been able to do, certainly, really an opportunity to have that impact globally, but also to come back and working with our, Canadian organization, working with our local, rare disease groups, and really back with my own, family. So actually, I'm saying my family, I'm so delighted right now, I'm back in Canada. I mean, traveling so much since everything began, and I was so upset because they gave the weather forecast today as being rainy and stormy. And some of you will know that my husband's in a nursing care facility, and when I'm home, I always take him out for a walk when I can. And I was so upset that the day I'm coming back, they're telling me it's raining, and it's gorgeous outside. There is sunshine, and I'm going to be so happy to be able to be out with him and have him out. So this is to me also that added bonus in terms of today. Thanks to everybody. Certainly, I'm happy to kind of allow anybody else who wants to have a very last word. Welcome to you, Kiko, and to Seki for joining us. And really, I know it's very far away for you, and we really very much appreciate it. Kiko. Hey, there's your Kiko. Yes. So really thanks to everybody. We know it's a big stretch, and we look forward to your taking advantage of the opportunities. And I really want to welcome also, thank you very much, Ida and Laura, for what they've been able to do, Leah, for what she's been able to do. Leah, I loved the interview with you. I thought you did such a masterful job, and I was astonished to learn that you were just doing this for your bachelor. So kudos to you in terms of what you're able to bring to us. So we look forward to this, I think, for everybody. Thanks so much. And Flor, as always, whatever environment I see you in, you make that extraordinary contribution all the time. A little bit of a challenge to all of us, and I think that's good. But that's that's what we need, right? So thanks to everybody. Anything else that I need to do? I always forget something. We did it. All right, huge thanks. And next
we did
time,
it, Durhane. We did it.
Next time we need to do this in person, though, right?
Oh yes.
Oh yeah.
So much. So much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Keep in contact.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.